Leader of the Opposition.
Working. We wish everyone a Merry Christmas, but it won't be merry for a lot of people. 1 in 5 Canadians are skipping meals. There's a 20% increase in the cost of a turkey dinner for the average family. And one Ontario Food Bank CEO said, clients are telling us they're considering medically assisted dying or suicide because they can't live in grinding poverty anymore. This is after 7 years of this Prime Minister. He can promise whatever he wants, but these are the results he's actually delivered. How does he justify the $4.6 billion of waste when people cannot afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know Canadians are facing difficult times, but we also know Canadians continue to step up for each other. But that's why this government has continued to move forward with direct supports for Canadians, whether it was doubling the GST credit for 6 months that gave hundreds of dollars more in the pockets of 11 million families, whether it was moving forward on rental supports and dental supports for low-income Canadians. These are things that the Conservative Party voted against, but we're delivering $1,300 over the next 2 years for families to help with bills on dental. We're delivering $500 on rental. We're going to continue to deliver for Canadians through this tough time.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
What he has delivered is a 40-year high in inflation, the fastest rising interest rates in Canadian history. 1 in 5 Canadians not able to afford food. And what for? Well, according to the Auditor General, there's $28 billion of suspicious spending and another $4.6 billion of outright waste. Money that is driving up the inflationary crisis that Canadians are paying for right now. He gave checks to dead people and prisoners, Mr. Speaker. When will he recover the $4.6 billion of wasted money the Auditor General identified?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, Canadians will remember that when we hit the challenge of the pandemic, we needed to be there for each other, and this government made the decision to move quickly to support Canadians, to support families, to support workers, to support seniors, to support youth, to move forward on supporting small businesses, not only so people could get through the pandemic and the health crisis that it was, but also so we could weather the economic storm that came with it. And that's exactly what we did, seeing our economy come back faster than most of our fellow economies around the world. We're going to continue to support Canadians and make those investments that keep a better future.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Except the money went, according to the Auditor General, 1,500 prisoners got the money. Dead people got the money. $660 million of the money is under criminal investigation, and $4.6 billion was wasted altogether. Now, Mr. Speaker, the question was very simple. On what date will this Prime Minister and his government recover the $4.6 billion of waste identified by the Auditor General to date?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians, like the Canadians in Mississauga Lakeshore, recognize the rhetoric from the Leader of the Opposition for what it is, proposing cuts in Canadian pensions, proposing cuts for EIs, proposing to do less for Canadians who need it. They voted against supports to make sure that families could send their kids to the dentist this year and next. These are the kinds of things that Conservatives continue to propose in their cuts and austerity approach on this side of the aisle. We'll continue to be there to support Canadians who need it, because that's who we are as Canadians. We support each other.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This from a Prime Minister who's deliberately driving up home heating bills this winter. Home heating bills are expected to double right across the country. 40% of Atlantic Canadians live in energy poverty. Rural Canadians in Northern Ontario forced to heat with oil will have to pay more as well. And now the Liberal NDP plan is to raise prices further by tripling the carbon tax. Will the Prime Minister tell us exactly how much his carbon tax will cost the average Canadian family in higher home heating bills this winter?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the carbon price in Atlantic Canada doesn't kick in until the spring, so it won't cost them any more this winter. If he had actually paid attention instead of sharing disinformation with Canadians, he would know that. The reality is we are delivering a price on pollution that not only makes sure we're protecting our future against climate change, but we're putting more money in the pockets of hardworking Canadians to support them through this transition. That's what our price on pollution does. That's what it will continue to do to support Canadians while we fight climate change.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, let's try to get into the holiday spirit. The Prime Minister received a generous invitation from the provincial premiers. A little bit like a family dinner. They might tell them about a sick aunt or uncle. They might tell him that it's expensive, and he might find the conversation boring, but he can't turn it down. Because in the holiday spirit, the Prime Minister should accept the invitation from Quebec and the provinces. Will he? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the history of our country, no Prime Minister has met with the provincial premiers regarding a health crisis as I have. I will continue to meet with them regularly, and I am looking forward to meeting with the Premier of Quebec in a couple of days to discuss Quebecers' concerns and to discuss how we will continue to work together. We know we need to improve our healthcare system, and the federal government will be there to support provinces while they make these improvements. We know that's important for families throughout the country. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, the Prime Minister seems to be mixing up a party and a one-on-one conversation. I'm sure he's too polite to make such a faux pas. There's a lot to be mentioned at this family dinner. There are cousins who are waiting on a stretcher in a corridor, an uncle who's waiting for a kidney transplant, someone's kid who has a respiratory virus, someone else who's facing a serious mental health crisis. The premiers want to talk about that at the family dinner. Does the Prime Minister really not want to meet them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canadians need an improvement to our health system. Too many people don't have access to a GP. Too many people need to wait months or even years for a mental health appointment. And we know that people are still standing in line for extended periods of time. The federal government has invested $72 billion additional dollars in the health system over the years, and we will be there to invest more. But Quebecers and Canadians know that it takes more than money, it takes results, and that's what we're working on with the provinces.
Burnaby South.
We have a crisis in our healthcare system that is impacting children. Children are suffering. And the Prime Minister says that because of an impasse with the premiers, that he can't do anything. I want to remind the Prime Minister that he promised in the last election to hire 7,500 more nurses and doctors, a promise that if he kept, would absolutely help in dealing with this crisis. So my question is, did he mean what he said?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've all heard from across the country how Canadians need access to family doctors, how Canadians need access to better mental health services quicker, how Canadians need to see shortened wait times and an end to surgery backlogs. And that is exactly what we are committed to. We have been working with the provinces. Our health minister has been directly engaged with his counterparts over the past many months to ensure that as we invest more in healthcare across this country, we're delivering results and outcomes that Canadians can count on. That's what Canadians want. That's what we're going to be delivering.
Member for